Kevin Roth here of RotoGrinders, and today we're going to talk about the RG Discord. If you're not a member, you should be. It is a fantastic community and resource that RotoGrinders provides, and it's easy to join as well. All you have to do is click the Discord icon on RotoGrinders or go to rotogrinders.com/Discord. From there, you'll either sign up if you're new to RG, or if you're already a member, just click the link at the top to go to the sign-in page. Once you've logged into your RG account, you can be taken to Discord to log in there. Once you've connected those accounts, you won't have to leave the server. You can freely close out and reopen Discord without ever having to reconnect. The idea of Discord might be a little bit daunting to you, but it's actually pretty simple to navigate. Whether you're on mobile or desktop, the far left side will show you the Discord servers that you've already joined. Then next to that, you'll see the channels within that Discord. We have both free channels like Chiefs Prop Shop and our daily sport channels. And we also have premium channels like Blender's Game Theory or the Crunch Time channels. Premium members can see the difference between the free and premium channels by looking for a padlock icon next to the premium channel names. We also have a few pointers for new and experienced users alike. If you're having trouble finding a channel, make sure that you haven't collapsed the section that the channel is in. Collapsing a channel will only allow it to appear when there are unread messages in that channel. Also, we find that using the actual Discord program works better than opening it in a browser like Safari or Chrome. Lastly, if you're having trouble with one of our tools, your RotoGrinders account, or any other technical needs, you can hop in our feedback and help section of channels to get help from one of our wonderful support and moderation team members. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out on Twitter @RotoGrinders or email support@rotogrinders.com. See you in Discord.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Crunch Time on a Saturday afternoon where I am, Saturday morning, probably throughout the rest of the United States. I am Britt Devine, here with my man Keith Eister, and joined by Mr. Carlucci. Luch, it's been a while since we've done a show. What's up, dude?
Hey, man, good to see you. I know we were a staple of Crunch Time like a year and a half, 2 years ago together, and it's good to be back on. I think Keith inherited as like my co-anchor for a lot of stuff we did. So it's cool that the three of us are together, and Fanduel has about 12 different slate offerings today. So pick whichever one you want.
Fanduel, like, you sponsor the show. We're happy for it. You make it free to the people, but we don't need to play. What is this? Let's see. What do we got? The all day, very early, afternoon, early only, evening, main, late, and after hours. All right. That's just too many slates. Give me the 6 games, maybe like the competition, right? I would have preferred that this morning. I know a lot of people like the different slates, but I would have preferred the 6 games on FanDuel today, Ice.
Yeah, for sure. It's just hard to keep track. And then especially when you're trying to talk about both sites at one time and one game is not on one slate, it gets very confusing.
Yeah. So when we get through all this, what we're going to do today, if you guys are joining us, there is no baseball show for the night slate. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the morning slate right till lock, which I think is about 1:10 today. Maybe we'll even cut it a little bit short because there's only so much we can do for 3 and 6 game slates. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the night slate. So you could watch that now, or if you're jonesing for some RG content a little later in the day, this will be on YouTube. You can just hop back into this and get some analysis on the late slate. But that's our current plan. So I wanted to let everybody know on that. And we are brought to you by FanDuel. They have allowed Crunch Time to be free on the YouTubes for everybody. And I want to tell you guys, their sportsbook offer is pretty sweet. I know when I got the sportsbook here in New York, it was one of the first things I did. It was I think it was a risk-free bet up to $1,000 or something like that. So if you've never signed up for their sportsbook, make sure to check that out. And if you're playing any baseball this morning, they've got the 50K Saturday MLB squeeze for just $4.44. You can win some money on the early slate. All right. So, Luch, you joined a little late. I hope you're ready for some tournaments, because how Keith and I have been handling this when we join the show is we generally talk cash and we let the other guy do tournaments. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, it's fine.
All right. So Ice, let's talk cash games. And I guess we'll kind of just go over all the pitchers on all the, maybe on DraftKings, but of course on FanDuel too. Ryu is 10-8. You've got Carrasco 10-3 on FanDuel. We might have a little bit of a difference of opinion on this one. I like that combination on DraftKings as my early only pitching. I think I'm going to choose Carrasco over Kopech as my SB2. You can go all cheap, but there's just not enough bats where you need to spend all that money on DraftKings today. I sort of like Ryu. Insert pitcher against Oakland, insert pitcher against Pittsburgh. We're going to see this all year. Oakland's been hitting a little hot. I don't think that's going to continue. You look at the plate IQ. They just strike out a ton, which will certainly boost Ryu because he's not really known for his strikeouts. Just a better real life pitcher than a fantasy one. But going up against Oakland today, the Toronto offense is a little weaker today. So maybe a little win equity is squeezed out of him. But I think he's the guy I like. I like Carrasco as my SB2. Why do you maybe like Carrasco a little bit more than Ryu?
It's just that price tag for Ryu for me. There's no upside there. His K rate was down around 20% last year. Yes, it's a great matchup against Oakland. I just think that Carrasco has a little bit more strikeout upside, quite a bit more strikeout upside, even though Arizona doesn't strike out as much as Oakland. They're still not a powerful offense by any means. Carrasco just has the strikeout upside that I'm looking for, and I save $500 going down to him. So I think I would prefer Carrasco. It's really close. I don't think you can go wrong either way, but it'd be Carrasco for me.
Yeah, I've got the bat projections out, and the bat has Ryu leaps and bounds. Well, I don't know. There's not really pitchers that really get leaps and bounds this earlier in the season, but he's got a good lead over everybody else according to the bat. And I think Ryu, I know he got touched up a little in that first game. I'm looking for him to bounce back against Oakland today. DraftKings, right? I sort of like both of them. Ryu's just 8,500, right? So that price tag is a little bit more appealing. You've got Carrasco at 7,900. Where it becomes interesting is you've got Kopech at 7K on DraftKings too, Keith. So those are probably the three guys. You can throw in Kluber too, but Kluber, right, in his first start, I used him against Baltimore, right? Don't know if I want to test him too much against the White Sox today. I want to see if he can do it against a really good offense. He's still cheap, but I think he's on the outside looking in, at least in the cash games. Which of the trio would you want to use on DK as your two starting pitchers, or is there somebody else? You got Tanner Houck, who has all the upside in the world, but his spring training, his first game, right, walks, runs, it just really hasn't come together through him since he started throwing in the spring so far this year.
Yeah, the price over here on Ryu is much more palatable. I still prefer Carrasco, still slightly cheaper, but I would pair him with Ryu. I love Kopech as a pitcher, just awesome stuff from that guy. And Tampa Bay does strike out a lot as well. Mm-hmm. You just don't have the leash with Kopech. Ryu should give you at least 5 innings, probably closer to 6 against this Oakland lineup. Just feel like there's a little bit more of a leash there with Ryu, and I feel a little bit more comfortable with that in cash games. Love Kopech for tournaments because the strikeout upside in this matchup is huge, but it's Ryu and Carrasco for cash.
Yeah, Lou, do you agree or disagree? Are those sort of basically the main 3 pitchers on a dual site like DraftKings this morning?
For cash, yeah, I believe so. Segueing into tournaments, I guess we can maybe start going there. I think you can even get a little dirtier and maybe go with Nick Martinez. Still a lot of unknown. Doesn't feel great. Obviously, the story around Nick Martinez was he went overseas to Japan. Obviously, it's not major league caliber quality opponents, but Japan's still pretty good. And he looked like a totally different pitcher. Looked pretty good in the opener against the Giants. 1 hit, 5 Ks, and a walk. 6,700 on DK. I know it's Atlanta. I know there's some power in that lineup. As much as there is power, there is still some strikeouts to be had in that lineup, especially in that bottom of that order. You still have Dansby Swanson and Alex Dickerson, who came more than 25% of the time, and Duvall and d'Arnaud are both pushing 30%. And as scary as Austin Riley is as a hitter now, he has a high K rate as well. So, on a slate where nobody's really blowing me away, and let's be real, it's, Ryu chalk that pretty much sums it up. The guys at the top, I'm not like totally thrilled about matchup wise, and how far they've been stretched out, some of them. So like for tournaments, I could totally see maybe going cheap at both pitchers and getting some quality bats in your lineups.
Yeah, where are the quality bats? George Springer, hello. You just started the season. Why are you taking games off already, right? Get out there and play some baseball. They need to shorten this. Baseball needs to be like 100. They'll never do it, right? Because of revenue and all that. It needs to be like 140 games, maybe even less than that, right? My brilliant idea. Do any of you agree? I want 7 innings, but I want 4 outs an inning, right? To get more action on the base pass. They would never do anything that extreme. If I ruled baseball, that would be my fun rule I would go into. Anyway, Justin, the young guns, right? Tanner Houck, Michael Kopech. Which one of these would you rather throw out? Looks like Kopech is going to draw some big ownership on DraftKings today. Houck going up against Minnesota. He has some pedigree too. If you look at last year's numbers, they were pretty good just the spring. And then he faced the Yankees, right? It just really hasn't really put it together in basically any inning yet so far since spring training started. What do we do with these guys? And Houck, if he's going to come in at 10% on a dual site pitcher like DraftKings, I don't know. That seems semi-interesting based off last year's stats.
Yeah, I agree. You know, if you're multi-entering, I think it's super easy to go a little bit overweight on Houck, and I think that's fine. You know, there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of short sample sizes when you have like 2 spring training outings, maybe, and then you have 1 opener against the Yankees. It's tough to really tell what's going on. I mean, Keith, we can talk about the Brewers and how, wow, everything, you know, a lot of issues against the Cubs, and then Corbin Burns turns around and does the thing against Baltimore. Jury's still out about Woodruff and Peralta, I guess, at this point. So there's so many small sample sizes of data here. People are definitely overreacting. Now, the thing with Kopech in his first start is the leash was really short. What are we expecting leash-wise with Kopech? Have you guys have any best guesses? Have you heard anything here?
I haven't heard anything, but I mean, you can't expect, I believe was he at 68 or did he hit the magic number? He did hit the magic number, 69 pitches in his opening start here. But it's like Carrasco was pitching great too. He went 72 and he was on fire in that first start. I don't know. I don't really see him getting over 80. Either him or probably Carrasco based off their leashes. Maybe Carrasco gets like 85, but I can't see Kopech getting much longer of a leash than that.
For me personally, and in tournaments, like I'm not pairing Ryu and Kopech together at those ownerships. I'd rather take Kopech and you know 70 pitch, the magic number is encouraging. You figure that gets bumped up. Maybe he goes 80. The strikeout upside and the difference in prices, like I'd much rather play Kopech in terms of chalky pitchers in tournaments. I think I'm going Kopech, and you know I think he per dollar, I like him more than Houck, but that ownership is extremely interesting, like you said. But even still, there's a big difference in salary between the two. I mean, you can do a lot of different things with your lineups and your stacks, saving $1,300 in salary. So I'm still leaning Kopech despite that salary, but I'm totally not playing him with Ryu in tournaments together.
All right, and let's say on DK, Justin, if you were paying up to be contrarian, right? Because Sonny Gray, Zach Gallen, Ian Anderson got lit up in his first start. He's going up against San Diego today. Which one of those guys, right? They're all reasonably low ownership. They all have the upside. Which one looks the best to you? Because no one's really using them today.
Do I have to pick one, Britt?
Yeah, no. I mean, this is what everybody's thinking about today.
Yeah, it is probably Ian Anderson, despite the rough first outing. I think I'm gonna go with him. I know the Padres don't strike out a ton, but that's where my head's at. My gut feeling here is Ian Anderson between the three.
All right. So that's going to do it for pitching. And I do want to note we are free on YouTube. Later in the show, we will be answering questions. We will give preference to our RotoGrinders subscribers in the MLB Crunch Time Discord. But if you have any questions at all, throw them in the YouTube chat as well. If you aren't a RotoGrinders Premium subscriber, and I will get to those questions as we progress throughout the show. All right, real quick. Justin, I'm going to stick with you for tournament bats, right? And then me and Ice will talk some cash games. What are we looking at for stacks today? We've got a watered down Toronto offense, right? We've got Boston, who looks like they're in a pretty juicy spot today. And then, you know, Vegas wise, everyone else is pretty much thrown into the mix in the middle here. So maybe what are you doing? Do you have a preference between those two top teams? And then do you have a stack that might be a little bit lower on people can focus on?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting Saturday early slate here. I don't mind the Blue Jays. Blackburn is not a K pitcher whatsoever. I like Chapman quite a bit. Obviously, Vlad's carrying crazy ownership. So, like, my thoughts are if you're playing Vlad, you just want to go full stack. Honestly, that's the way I would attack it here. We got Kirk projected at 30%. That's crazy. Mega chalk here. I think you're going to want to play some of these Blue Jays in cash. And, of course, I won't steal that thunder there. But I still do like Toronto. Like, if I'm not looking at ownership, I still think they're interesting. I don't mind, in terms of lower ownership stuff here, honestly, like I don't mind playing some leverage Oakland stuff. I'm thinking that would probably be a question to get in the Discord. Like Ryu is going to pitch to contact. I'm still not totally sold on him. A lot of righty bats in that A's lineup too. These guys are coming in at no ownership. We have a short slate here. And you know what? Like the fact that some of these top stacks are missing some of their better players and, guys like Kirk are carrying 30% in Toronto. I think this is a perfect slate to play a little bit of leverage here with someone like the A's, to be honest with you.
All right, one of the teams. So at least in the sports betting world, and I'll talk about. I know Keith's got a pick up on scores and odds. Maybe he can give it out. But if you guys don't have access to scores and odds, and you live in a state where sports betting is available, like I do in New York, Keith straight up moved to Arizona so he can get access to all the sports bets because he wanted to have some fun. A couple of the bets I made today, I'm just looking at the early slate. I think I bet the Braves to win, and I think about the over on the Boston Minnesota game. I think that was at 9.5. So I'm not buying the pitching in that game. So I'm down on Tanner Houck, and I like the over in that one. Keith, you wrote something up on scores and odds today. Normally it's premium. You want to give it out for people. It's in a later game, but might as well, right?
Yeah.
I'm on this one too. I'm on this one too.
Good. Glad to hear that. We tend to agree on a lot, and when we do, it usually works out. So glad to hear you're on it. I've got Jamison Tyon over 4.5 strikeouts. He's got an awesome matchup against Baltimore here. Baltimore's projected lineup struck out 26% versus righties last year and walked at only 6%. So just a phenomenal matchup for Tyon. He looked pretty good in that first start against the Blue Jays, who are a far superior offense to this Baltimore team. Like him to get up around the 80-85 pitch mark tonight, and he should be able to mow down some Orioles on his way.
And scores and odds too. This is a Fanduel show, but the DK Live app, right? I use that for tracking all my, like what's happening in a game. That's garbage now. I don't know what's happened, but it doesn't work anymore. So I use scores and odds now to track what's happening in games. It's actually a very nice app to use. And then if you do have sports betting, simply getting access of knowing, right? If you have I have 8 sports books, right? So knowing in one click which one has the best line instantly makes you like almost a profitable sports bettor in the long run by always getting the best line and get that on scores and odds. Check it out if you haven't already. All right, let's get to some cash game bats on this little slate here. Probably not using a catcher on FanDuel. We have to use one on DraftKings. Don't really want to. Dalton Varsho leading off against Carrasco. I like Carrasco. Varsho as the catcher, right? Has power, speed, has all that stuff today. Just a little bit too cheap on DK.
Yeah, the bat loves Dalton Varsho, and he's grabbing the leadoff spot, so I get it. I think I prefer Alejandro Kirk, even though he's kind of buried in that lineup a little bit. Mm-hmm. I like this spot for the Blue Jays. They're right in that same price tier, so pick your favorite of those two. I think those are the two top options, though, for sure.
Yeah, I'll take the road hitter hitting first. Maybe get that juicy extra fifth at bat. Might be the difference. Hopefully, he doesn't get an out in that last at bat and does something with it, in my opinion. Tournaments, typically Luch, I'll put the catcher with the stack. It just sort of makes it easy. You got any actually specific catchers you're trying to target today?
No, I'm mostly the same way. If you're value hunting and you're not on the Toronto stack, I think you can punt Zach Collins. He's the guy who had some serious power in the minors, hasn't really been able to figure it out. But I just think Paul Blackburn stinks, quite honestly. So I'm okay with punting Zach Collins.
I'm definitely okay. Insert any hitter against Paul Blackburn, you will get a thumbs up from me. All right, let's go to first base. We've got Vlad Guerrero, who is the Iron Man to start the year for the Blue Jays. Is there any reason to not get him right? You like even on FanDuel where you have Ryu, who's expensive, or if you're using Carrasco in cash, Keith, you can get Vlad in your lineup relatively easy today. He seems to be the clear choice for me.
Yeah, he's a must-have for me. Clearly the top hitter on this short slate. So it's Vlad for me for sure.
Yeah, all right. That makes that pretty easy. Tournaments, Luch, I'm looking, and there are some interesting choices. I know you mentioned Martinez as a pitcher, but you got to like a couple of the lefties against him, including Matt Olson today. I think he's pretty interesting. Alonso can take anybody deep twice in a game. It doesn't matter if it's Gallen or anybody else. And there's a couple other cheaper options if you want to get frisky in tournaments. I think it's a pretty interesting first base slate for tournaments.
Yeah, they're still unknown, and we talk about short sample sizes and how good is Nick Martinez going to be at the major league level again, with his new arsenal and whatever he developed in Japan while he was there. So I totally get going and playing some Atlanta guys here. This is just such an odd slate because there aren't like a bunch of gas cans on it, but there aren't a ton of pitchers that you exactly want to like fully like stack against either. That's why, like, if I'm playing this slate, I'm totally going with the leverage. And like, it's not a leverage play here, but a team that's going up against a pitcher who got shelled in his first outing and just isn't very good is Detroit. And like, I'm just like looking at, Torkelson and, you can save some money there at first base. That's your route. The kid from Kansas City throws 3 pitches. He's fastball, changeup, and that's most to one platoon. Let me look it up, but that's pretty much it. Like, I just don't trust. Yeah, he's 60% fastball to lefties, 22% changeup. He throws 50% fastball to righties, and 30. So he's pretty much fastball changeup. I just don't trust young pitchers who have 2 pitches, and I think that's really interesting. And I think you can make a case for Detroit. Like the slate, I hate this slate so much, to be honest with you, that I'm willing to just play some low dollar stakes and make a couple of stacks with Detroit and Oakland, specifically Oakland, and hope the leverage hits. But I think Detroit's also interesting.
Yeah, Detroit or KC is like one-off offenses today. You can definitely both those pitchers I don't think are very good, and I think both offenses have enough talent to be able to have a good offense. It hasn't gone the last couple of games, but KC in particular has at least like the top 5 in that lineup. They could put together some really good performances throughout the course of the year. So I can definitely get behind the KC offense today.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Manning, like highly touted young guy, hasn't been fantastic at all at the major league level. I mean, he's K'ing 15% of righties and 14% of lefties. So I totally agree. I think those are kind of 3 contrarian stacks to look at today. Detroit, I mentioned Oakland, and I know I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but it kind of fits in with Kansas City and some guys at these positions that, you're not going to play in cash.
All right. Keith, on the very early only. So that's one of the 4,000 slates on FanDuel today. What's at second base today? Because you can, Brandon Lau, of course, you could play him, right? But it's against Kopech. He has some upside. Marte against Carrasco. If we like Carrasco, maybe we're not going to play Marte, but he's reasonably consistent. I found myself almost like punting it, right? You've got Pinder, who might not play the whole game even, but he's 2,600. That sort of fits some of the things I want to do today. What's your take? Are you spending or saving?
I think you want to save at the second base position. It's just not a great position in general. I do like Lau as a hitter, but I don't love this matchup against Kopech. Even if Kopech is only in there for 3 or 4 innings, the White Sox bullpen is really good. So just not a great spot for Lau. I mean, you're looking to punt it, and since Pinder grabbed that leadoff spot, that's where I'm looking as well. I was hoping Espinal, with the Blue Jays lineup being a little bit watered down, would be higher up in the order, but he's all the way down in the 8 hole, so that leads me to Pinder.
I was liking him on DraftKings. You've got, I like Carrasco, and I'm pitching Carrasco on my cash team on DK, but it doesn't mean I can't play these underpriced Minnesota bats against him. No. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Houck. Why am I talking about Carrasco? I was playing Varsho against him. But if we're not on Houck, he's a little priced up, and I sort of believe maybe he wasn't as good as he was last year. Polanco is too cheap. There's a couple other Minnesota bats throughout the DK pricing system that are just a little bit too cheap today. And it just sort of fits in what I want to do. Even if Houck has a good game, Polanco, and we'll talk about Correa at shortstop. These guys are more than capable of putting up good games against anybody.
Yeah, Minnesota is really cheap today. You've got Arise leading off there at 2.3. Not as much upside, so it never strikes out. So you're going to get the ball in play 4 or 5 times. But Polanco just has so much more upside. If you can find that $1,000 or $1,100 to get up to Polanco, I would rather do that. But I agree, both of those Minnesota guys are too cheap.
Yeah, and in tournaments, what's the lay of the land for you, Luch? You've got, I talked to Olsen, against Martinez. I think Ozzy Albies can fit that. Whit Merrifield's probably a little bit too expensive, but if you're stacking KC, you got to have the leadoff guy. Story low, Scope against the lefty, crappy lefty and Bubik. I mean, that Cano even. I mean, you can have fun today on a 6-game slate.
Yeah, you totally can. And this 6-game slate, if I'm on the right one, actually has the Nationals on it. Going up against Bryce Wilson. And you're not getting a ton of crazy ownership. Of course, Juan Soto is going to carry ownership on like a 6-gamer. But I think the Nat stack is interesting, and you can still get Josh Bell sub 10%. And and you only need 4 on FanDuel, so you don't even have to play a catcher. So I still like the Nats, despite some of their guys carrying some decent ownership. I think it's for good reason, and it's not like a crazy amount of ownership on a 6-gamer.
All right, going to third base. This is one of the spots, right? You've got Devers. I think he's just too good, and against Sonny Gray, Devers can handle him. He's one of the few guys you can actually spend money on today, Keith. So he's someone I'm prioritizing.
Yeah, on DraftKings we're saving money on pitching. It's just a matter of needing to spend money somewhere. And Devers, just like Vlad, is one of the best hitters on this slate. This I agree that Devers is in a great spot. I've got him tagged there in lineup HQ. Sonny Gray, I think, has fallen off a little bit from his top form. I'm not scared of him at all. Devers is a super talented hitter, so that's my guy.
What about on FanDuel?
I think Matt Chapman is also very interesting. If you wanted to save money there, Chapman has a nice price. Yeah. And even on FanDuel, he is the guy. No Boston on the slate, so on the very early only, Chapman would be the top third baseman for me.
All right, real quick, I guess you can just wrap up third base for me in tournaments. Luch, we got to get to some questions here in the final 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, I mean, FanDuel, right? We're still on FanDuel?
Yep. On the very, 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 very early one.
On the very, very early one. Jesus God. Yeah, well, you're going to have to let my lineup HQ load again. I was going to say on the other early only, Jose Ramirez was like sub 5% against Descalfini. That's crazy. So yeah, I like that call. Yeah, I mean, you can get honestly, any of these guys are coming in no ownership. I like Escobar in that game against Gallen. Of course, Matt Chapman really only going to be, that can't be right, sub 5%. I'm not buying it. So it's Escobar.
I think ownership has got to be for the all day slate or something.
Yeah, so I think I'm guessing more people are going to play Chapman. So I'm okay with going to Escobar on this ridiculous 3-game, very early slate.
All right, shortstop. I'll just give out a couple of cash games on DK. You've got Carlos Correa, looks pretty juicy at 3,800. If for some reason you are spending on DK, you've got Bichette, who would be the preferred option, I think, against Blackburn. On FanDuel, you could get to Bichette relatively easily, and I think he's basically the same price as Lindor. I would play, but I know Lindor had the big game yesterday. Yeah, they're both 4K. I would play Bichette to get some access to that Toronto lineup in cash games. Moving to the outfield, Keith, what are we really doing? Maybe we could start on FanDuel. This is a spot where, I don't know, I'm not really spending any money in the outfield today. There's just cheap guys that fit some of the, I want to get Vlad in, right? And I want to get Bichette, and I'm paying up for pitcher. This is sort of the spot where I found myself saving some money.
Yeah, Arozarena, I like his price tag, even though I don't love this matchup for Tampa Bay. But 2,900 for a talented hitter like Arozarena in the 3 spot, I'm fine with that. Tapia against Blackburn at 2,300 leading off is fine. You may run into a situation where you have 4 Blue Jays already and can't fit him in, but I'd be fine with him. Manny Margot is kind of the same situation as Arozarena, just don't like him as well, but he's in play there. If you do have a little bit of money to spend, I like Eloy Jimenez against Kluber. Kluber's had some reverse splits here recently, so I think it's a pretty good spot for Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert as well.
Over on DK, if you're looking for value, Max Kepler is probably my value du jour at 2,700, hitting cleanup for Minnesota today. You can, if you're going double cheap, you can get to like a Luis Robert, someone like that on DraftKings too. A couple consolation prizes if you can't do that. Maybe like a Marcelo Zuna, Kiki Hernandez. You mentioned Eloy. Maybe we can get one of those guys in on DraftKings as well. Are probably some of my favorite cash games. Plays in the outfield. Luch in the outfield tournaments. You got a couple guys that might be a little bit lower owned for anybody.
Absolutely. I'm loving the Chad Pinder call. 1% leading off. That's in the leverage stack against Ryu. But I also think Robbie Grossman, we mentioned the Tigers, 1%, had a really underrated season, really turned into a nice little outfielder, leading off for Detroit, 1% owned, doesn't project exceptionally well either. So I think those are two guys, you can get unique by just playing one of them, coming in at 1% on a 6-gamer. So I think they're interesting. And I do like Starling Marte, we got him at 14%. I think that's fine. But I think he's interesting for the Mets as well.
Yeah, I like the Mets stack against Gallon today. I think they can certainly, not a lot of people are using Gallon, but the Mets offense is really coming alive over the past couple of games. All right, we're going to take some questions to round out the end of the show over the next 8 minutes or so. We will talk a little bit of late slate post lock. So at 1:10, I don't know, for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, we'll talk a little bit late slate. You can watch it now, or you can come back to it later in the day if you want. But I'll start fielding some questions from our MLB Crunch Time Discord first. And then if not, there's not enough paying subscribers in there asking questions, I will jump over to YouTube and answer some from the general public. With that said, let's see here. I see stacking Oakland, right? You're just looking to do something strange. Everyone, right? The whole season, Luch. Oakland's going to stink. Oakland's going to stink. They're running a little hot this year. Eventually, I think they'll probably come back down to being one of the worst offenses in the league. But on the 6-game slate, can you get behind that? Even on the 3-game, very, very early, only on Fanduel too, to get different.
Yeah. I think it might be more of a DK full stack thing than looking for power on Fanduel. But, let's not sit here and pretend that Ryu is an elite pitcher anymore. 20% K rate since the beginning of 2021. He has his games where he cruises and is able to keep the ball on the ground kind of thing. But who's to say that's going to be this game? This guy did come over to spring training a little bit late. Who's to say Oakland might not continue to run hot a little bit? It's a little tougher to want to play them on FanDuel, and pick 4 guys because there's not a ton of power upside on this team, at all, outside of Murphy, and maybe you get a Lowry or a Pinder Dong here or there. I mean, it's a terrible lineup. So I totally get why Ryu is chalk. He's chalk for a reason. The lineup stinks. There's K rates everywhere. But on a small slate like this, just crazy ownership for Ryu. I think it makes sense for large field stuff.
All right. From this question's from YouTube. This was a little earlier in the show. Hopefully you're still here. Michael Johnson. Which pitcher do we predict for the most strikeouts this morning? Right. So maybe over the 6 games. Luch, who you got? We'll go one by one here.
Let's see. That's a pretty good question here. You know what? I'm thinking it could be Kopech. If we get that 80 pitches out of him, there are some Ks in that Tampa Bay lineup. We saw Dylan Cease do his thing, and I'm not comparing Cease to Kopech, but I think it's Kopech.
I'm gonna go with Ryu. I like Ryu quite a bit today, and that Oakland offense definitely will help his K rate. I think it's probably those two. Is there anyone else you can put into contention, Keith?
Oh, I like Carrasco.
Yeah, he's the other guy.
Yeah. Kopech would be the guy. I mean, Kopech could literally strike out 6 or 7 over 4 innings here. So he could lead the slate in strikeouts, even if he doesn't get 5 innings.
All right. Couple best lefty righty matchup today, right? Who we got? Who's got the splits advantage? I guess you can go like righty lefty. Who's like the best splits advantage hitter for you on the slate today?
Give me Mlb Dfs against Sonny Gray.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good to me. Let's see. Luch, you got one off the top of your head?
That's who I was gonna say too. Like, although I don't love the Boston full stack today, I do like Devers in that matchup.
Let's see. There's not a ton of like it's a lot of righty on righty crime today.
Matt Olson. Matt Olson is a pretty good one too.
Yeah, Olson, Lbs, Devers. I think those are probably all some of my.
I think that's a fascinating game to just keep tabs on to see if Nick Martinez is formidable for another start. If not, it could get ugly, but I'm interested.
Let's see here. Sean V in chat would not play Ryu here. We will see what happens on that one. We got about 4 minutes. I don't really see any more questions. So if you guys have any early slate questions, post them in the Crunch Time chat or in YouTube, and I will get to them. What I'm going to do now, because I think we've covered just about everything that we can on the very, very early only and then the DraftKings slate, is I'm going to switch over to maybe the night slate because there is no night crunch time tonight. And we wanted to spend a couple of minutes at least giving you some ideas, or if people were going to come back to it later in the day, our thoughts on this one. So I guess, Keith, I'm going to start with you for pitching because we've got basically a 1A tier of pitcher and then a big drop off because we've got Verlander, who basically was old Justin Verlander from 2 years ago in his first start. And he's going up against Seattle. There's nothing to really like, if there's a pitcher who's going to have a long leash on this late slate, it's definitely Verlander for sure. You look at some of the other guys going, maybe Tyon, I think has a little bit in him too, but it really looks like Verlander and Tyon, right? You wrote Tyon up on scores and odds. These are the two, at least from the cash game version, that I'm very interested in.
Yeah, it is pretty easy to pay up for Justin Verlander because Coors Field is still extremely cheap.
Yeah,
and yesterday we had a situation where we had 2 pretty good pitchers in Coors Field. That is not the case today. Coors Field is going to be extremely popular. They're all underpriced. It is very easy to get up to Justin Verlander here.
Yeah, and I like Tyon. The bat, if you use the bat does not like Tyon today. I don't know. I'm disagreeing with the bat. I like Cardi's projection system, but I would definitely project Tyon for more than 14 DraftKings points today. Right, Keith?
Yeah, I agree. We talked about how great the matchup was. He looked pretty decent in his first start against a tough Toronto team. So I like Tyon a good bit.
All right. So if I think those are going to be the 2 highest owned pitchers for sure. Looks like Matz has drawn some ownership, but against Milwaukee and after that bad start when he was popular, I would imagine his ownership does drop some. What's interesting on the tournament slate from a pitching perspective, if we're all playing Verlander and Tyon, Luch, because right, like Syndergaard didn't have any strikeouts really. I think he had 1 right in his first start. He pitched well. He's a pitcher now, not 100-mile-per-hour flamethrower, right? Like he's a pitcher more than the strikeout king. He's just 7,900 though. There's a couple other guys, Hunter Green went bananas in his first start, but now he's going up of the season. Now he's going up against the Dodgers, right? And he has the ability to post massive strikeout totals, but probably not going to play him against the Dodgers. There's a couple of other guys. What's interesting to you?
Yeah, Hunter Green looked great. The Dodgers matchup's tough. Probably not going to want to go there. Syndergaard is certainly interesting. I just prefer Tyon. I mean, we have Tyon coming in at 8% on Fanduel here. Maybe I'll have to refresh. But that's what I'm showing as the latest. I'm willing to give Urias another chance or first start, he got shelled at Coors Field. I mean, I'm okay with that. Again, I'm referencing like the Brewers first series and, Corbin Burns didn't K anybody and whatever. So I don't know. I guess I'd be a little surprised if Urias went out there and dominated, but he is a stud. And obviously, you want to talk about short sample sizes. I mean, it's the first time we saw Justin Verlander pitch in a regular season game in how long? But I agree. I liked what I saw out of Verlander, and he draws a decent matchup, and I think he's fine for cash games. But I'm interested in Urias at sub 5%. and Tyon for me too. I'm with you guys on Tyon today.
Yeah, and then at least as far as the offense, we're not going to go position by position this early in the game because it's the weekend. Half the lineups won't even be what we want them to be anyway. Offense, one, it's cores. You just touched on this when we started talking about this. Colorado and Chicago, they're priced so low on both sites today, Keith, that it's pretty easy to use Verlander and get core stacks. It seems like that's the way to do it pretty easily, at least for cash games. Maybe you mix in a value play that ends up showing up at the end of the night. Someone you didn't project in, he ends up hitting leadoff or something like that, like we got with Tapia today in the morning. You just mix a couple of that in, cores, Verlander or Tyon if you really want all the bats, and you're pretty set for the cash game version of a lineup this early.
Yep, that sounds pretty good to me. The one other guy I will mention, Max Muncy, is still way underpriced on both sides. So yeah, I agree. It's going to be a combination of Coors bats. Throw Max Muncy in there, and you're well on your way to the cash lineup.
Yeah, everyone will be riding along together in the big trains on the night slate, I would imagine today. So just we're early, Luch. We don't have all the lineups. I would imagine with the way the pricing is, the Coors ownership is going to be pretty bananas, right? Like we're already projecting almost 40-ish% on a couple of batters, which is pretty high, even on a 6-game slate for tournaments today. So what's your tournament mind say about this projected ownership from this game this early?
It means I'm going to go elsewhere. It means I'm going to maybe go back to the Angels. And we have Ohtani coming off a 2-home run game on Fanduel. Under 15% right now. I mean, you can stack the Angels, I think, against Taylor Hearn. I think you can even look at the Yankees. Of course, Judge and Donaldson are looking to carry a ton of ownership too. But very highest team total on this FanDuel slate here, the Yankees own. And there's still some more power in that lineup that's not garnering any ownership because the chalk is going to Coors and like 5 or 6 other batters on this slate. I'm looking at FanDuel. You can play Stanton under 10%. Oh, Joey Gallo sucked when he was chalk last night. You know what's going to happen tonight? He's going to go yard at least once. So 2,800, Anthony Rizzo is not even carrying 1% of ownership. And we're talking about Camden. Oh, they moved the fences back. I get it. And Wells has some decent stuff, but
those were the left field fences. That doesn't bother Anthony Rizzo too much, right?
Exactly. So I think you can play these Yankees on FanDuel and pick one of the chalk guys to play, and then there's still enough power at very low ownership with these other Yankees to play. The best time to play the Yankees is after they stink, and of course, because that recency bias comes in on a core slate where everybody's way too cheap. I like the Yankees, and I like going back to the Angels for tournaments.
Yeah, and then Keith, is there I'm just looking at the totals here. Would you pick one of the lower total offenses, right? Maybe it's the Angels or Texas. I like the Texas lineup a little bit too in tournaments today. Is there would you rather play Seattle against Verlander, Cincinnati against Urias, a St. Louis stack against Hauser? Hauser doesn't really strike anybody out. Baltimore against Tyon. That's one I probably wouldn't do. But what's a way to get maybe what's going to be a little bit different tonight?
I'm interested in the St. Louis stack. These Milwaukee starting pitchers have not looked, even the really, really good ones like Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff, and Freddie Peralta just got absolutely shellacked last night. Something is going on in Milwaukee. They just don't quite have what they had last year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to attack that early in the season. So I like that St. Louis stack a good bit to get different.
Yeah, I'm looking at the bat team totals real quick on the late slate. Basically has the Cardinals right in line with their projections. So no, at least according, I think we can all agree Cardi's projection system is one of the best, if not the best, when you're looking at overall things. And it's pretty much dead on with Vegas against Hauser, but I don't think Hauser's that good. So I'm with you. I mean, Arenado, give me a Goldschmidt, give me a Tyler O'Neill. That's a lot of power right there to go against Hauser. So I think that's pretty interesting. I don't know. Any other thoughts on this late slate, guys?
I'm good. A little too early to tell. I got Easter egg hunts to bring the kids to and stuff. So more power to you. If you're is anybody playing every single one of these FanDuel slates? I just have to know. So if you are, let us know.
Who does that?
But,
The giant, top of the heap DFS computer programmers, those guys probably are, but they're really not doing it. They're on vacation while their computer plays the slate for them.
Yeah, good stuff, fellas.
All right, we're gonna get out of here again. Go check out Scores and Odds. I know we'll give Keith's bet if you guys missed this earlier. We have Tyon, or he has Tyon 4.5 strikeouts over written up on Scores and Odds. I bet that earlier this morning as well. I think that's a pretty good one. Thanks to FanDuel for sponsoring the show. Just give us the 6-game early slate. I would prefer that. I know why they do it. They break them up. It's probably a little bit more money for them in the long run. But we want to play, right? We want to play what we want to play as DFS players. I would have liked that. And don't forget, if you're playing NBA today, I just got word NBA. Is this true, Luch? Is NBA lineup HQ free today? I got word that it's free today. So if you're playing the first round of the playoffs, go check it out. Lineup HQ. You can make lineups. You get the RG projections. I think on Scores and Odds, you can get this in the projections too. Karl Anthony Towns, Meansy wrote it up. 9.5 rebounds, hit the over on that. He has like one game where he goes below it against a team that does everything they can to stop him. He's going to go bananas today on the board. So Means wrote that up, and I think our projections have him way over on the rebounds on 9.5. And then go make some lineups on Lineup HQ today. That's going to do it. Hope you enjoyed the show. For Luch and Keith, I'm Brett. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we out you.